happy I didn't eat.
Flying with passengers. It's probably the first thing that most of us look forward to doing after getting our pilot's license. But it's something I don't think the training covers very well. Aviation has many variables, and that's why it's always made sense to me that there's an X after the W in the weather abbreviation, because obviously weather is fluid. And passengers are definitely a variable, which can be attention dividing at best, and at worst, flat out distracting. Over my years of flying, most of what I've learned about handling passengers has been through experience. Very little training ever addressed this. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not an instructor. This video is really just about sharing experiences, both mine and some of my friends, just kind of starting the conversation about passenger management as a private pilot. So I'm going to break it down into passenger character types. So meet my cousin Jen. She's the type of passenger that doesn't tell you how she's feeling. And she was in the back seat on this flight, so I had to actually figure out that she was not doing well. It was her boyfriend's birthday and she wanted to take him flying, so she was a trooper and rode along even though she really doesn't love flying. I knew that, but I didn't realize how bad it was until I watched this footage. So I forgot my intercom recording cable for this flight, so you're gonna have to take my word for it that she wasn't saying anything about how she was feeling. She was silently mouthing expletives. I started to gather that she wasn't loving it by looking back occasionally, but she was just quietly terrified back there. And I hate to laugh at her, but I did actually bring myself to tears watching this footage because it was hilarious how brutal it was for her. We're going to check in with Jen throughout this video because it's just funny. I'm sorry, Jen, but it's funny. But in all seriousness, part of my passenger briefing is that I make it very clear that it's important to me that I want to know how my passengers are doing. So I tell them I want them to let me know as soon as anything comes up. If they're uncomfortable, if they have a question, it's all good. The only thing I say is if I raise my finger, it's because I'm listening to ATC, so I just need them to stop talking.
Assessment caravan, they're climbing out through 800 feet.
Ship up, Mike. Has the traffic? Yes, I've got traffic. Ship up, Mike.
Now, of course, there's the isolate button that you can use on a lot of intercoms to separate yourself from the passengers, but personally, I'd rather know how they're doing, and a lot of the airplanes that I'm flying are older and don't even have the isolate button anyway. Now, dealing with a passenger that lets you know they're scared.
Where was that?
That was James. Okay. I mean, the air is so calm, you're feeling everything. Normally, it's never this calm.
Okay.
So I made a complete video out of this footage, which was basically me being humbled by having underestimated how distracting it can truly be.
It's so small, I feel like I don't want to move because if I move, I might fuck up something. You know?
It was very distracting. I ended up cutting the flight short. It just was not going well. And we'll just leave it there with MJ. Now, flying with kids is probably one of the most rewarding things you can do. This guy was awesome. He was super shy and cute and excited but very reserved, so he was an easy one to take in the plane, and I actually had to work really hard just to convince him to even try touching the controls. Now, on the other hand, this guy is a total ball of barely contained energy.
Hey, look, that plane's gonna be flied. I wanna go in that one. Let's just go in.
I'm not gonna say I told you so.
God, help me. It was absolutely crazy. Again, fun and excited, but he's just too much for a real airplane, so we had him in the sim.
Carefully step in.
Can I get to steer? I feel like I'm in a plane already.
Oh yeah, you ready?
Yeah.
Now, if I took a kid like him into a real plane, I'd make sure his seat was right back, get him strapped in really tight, and make sure he couldn't reach anything critical like the mixture.
That's actually going to turn off the engine if you pull that one.
Or maybe he'd just be better off in the back seat.
Hey, look, maps.
Yeah, that's right.
I need to take a map.
Oh boy.
What's this do?
Don't push that, it makes it explode.
And he pushed it.
I already pressed it.
I know, you can't resist.
Another good tip that's outside of the regular passenger briefing is to do a pre-briefing like hours before the flight to make sure you tell your passengers not to eat heavily and to bring water or a small snack like nuts or something. Now in this case, Jen forgot her water, but she's family, so she can share mine. Another question that comes up frequently, is it legal to let a passenger fly? And the answer is yes, it's perfectly legal. You just need to do it at a safe altitude. You're still pilot in command, you're supervising the flight, you're making all the decisions, so yes, it is legal. Now in this case, Jen's boyfriend might have been having a little too much fun making some uncoordinated turns, so it wasn't probably entirely comfortable back there for Jen, but she was a trooper.
Okay, so this is probably the most beat up plane I've ever flown.
I had to go way back into the archives for this one. This is from 2002 during a business trip when I was in Maui.
You guys want to go get a drink? I'm going to be in there. 5 minutes.
And yeah, that's the loudest shirt that I could find, but it was Hawaii. And I still have it because I'm a hoarder, so bam! Let's use it for the background behind this SD footage. I did a quick checkout and rented an old 172 to fly around the local islands with my coworkers. It was epic. Now our schedule was limited because we were there for a job. It was pretty windy, and with the mountains around there was definitely a fair amount of mechanical turbulence. It wasn't really an issue for me, but I should have thought more about how that would affect the passengers. And it was definitely a pretty rough ride for Sandra in the back. And she was doing a fair amount of shooting, so she was buried in the viewfinder of a camera, which definitely added to the risk for motion sickness. I tried flying a little further away from the coast to get away from the turbulence and had her looking outside. She started having issues with nausea pretty early in the flight, but she was cool and she understood that, this was a once-in-a-lifetime type opportunity, so we didn't turn back, we went for it, and she just kept a sick bag really handy.
Yeah, let's Sandra the hell out. Get a shot of that face. Look at that green. You're green!
There were points there, guys. I thought it was all over. You know when you're just about to throw up and like you feel like this pressure in your ears, in the back of your neck?
Yeah.
And like you get hot and you're like, yeah, it happened a few times.
Now the overly helpful pilot buddy. First of all, I've totally been that guy, so I'm not beating up on Mayron here, but this was just a really funny example of it.
Cleared to land, runway 30.
Clear land 30, Oscar Charlotte.
All right, let's get her slowed down.
Yeah, you're gonna
This is, huh?
You want a post-landing taxiway briefing right now?
Nope.
Okay.
But if you want to think about it.
So that may have sounded harsh, but there was zero hesitation for me to just shut that down. And I'm kind of proud of myself for that because I didn't even hesitate to think of pleasantries. At that point on final, I had other priorities. And Mayron's totally cool with it. We have this great dynamic. And again, I've totally been that guy. I did a whole video about it where I was the passenger just kind of tripping over myself, not being helpful. So, it happens, but just be aware of it. And what you don't want to have happen, though, is the opposite, where you don't say something and the pilot's not sure either, and then you end up both being passengers. Bottom line, I'd rather have my pilot friend offer me something that I didn't need than withhold saying something at a time when it could be truly helpful. So find that balance, but the key is to have a good dynamic when you fly with a pilot buddy. So let's check in with Jen and see how she's doing. Of all the people I know, Jen is the most allergic to everything. She carries 9 EpiPens at all times. Why am I telling you that? Because that is a yellow jacket wasp. That's right. In all the years that I've been flying, I have never had this happen that I know of. But the one time I'm with someone who is deathly allergic to bee stings and she's afraid of flying, she finds herself in a small plane trapped with a yellow jacket wasp. What are the odds? And she even managed to kill it. Anyway, what makes this even funnier is that she didn't tell me about this until after we landed. Nicolas shared this footage with me showing his slightly concerned wife and his happy little one in the back there. Seeing this kind of inspired me to think about getting my daughter a cute little headset like that and get her in the plane. My reservation has been that I didn't want to fly with a really young kid that might end up unhappy, which would be a huge distraction. I also enjoyed seeing the tangible relief Nicholas's wife's face after landing. So thanks for inspiring me to get my daughter in the plane, Nicholas. I'll probably do that this season. I've recently started flying tandem seat tailwheel planes, and that adds a whole new dimension to passenger management when you can't see them.
I don't know how an instructor flies this thing from back here and lands it. Yeah, it's amazing.
So this type of flying where I can't see my passenger is very new to me. Even when I'm flying a plane that has a back seat, I'll put the person in the seat that's not directly behind me. I typically don't fly with 4 people in the plane, so I'm never completely unable to see them. I've been told the best thing is to keep the passenger engaged, keep them talking. If they start to get quiet, it's not a good sign. It means they're either getting nauseous or they're afraid. And one of the best things you can do at that point is stop maneuvering, let them have control for a second. Even if they're not a pilot, just letting them have control, tell them to look outside, make sure they can see the horizon. Anything to engage them, get their eyes out, will sort of help them with nausea if that's what's happening. This is some footage from my buddy Steven. Now obviously his friend in the back seat is having a great time initially, but what Steven said happened was he got a little cocky, did one too many maneuvers, and his friend just couldn't handle it and he ended up getting sick. But luckily there was a sick bag there, which again, that's a big one. Make sure your passengers have access to them. Don't fixate on it, but make sure that passenger briefings include where the sick bags are. But the best piece of wisdom that I've ever received regarding assessing your passenger when you can't see them came from Jared when I was the passenger and he was the pilot in the Extra 300.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and start off with a roll then. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Out of 100%?
100.
100%, all right.
So the key there was assigning a numerical percentage because a lot of guys will say they're okay even when they're not.
Holy shit. Simple as that. Okay. You got the controls. I got the controls. Go and pull the nose up a little bit. Yeah.
So by removing the black and white aspect of yes or no if you're okay, what that means is that if you're anything other than 100%, you're not okay. And that's what Jared's looking for. So we did a whole bunch of maneuvers, and this is going to be a crazy awesome video, which I'm still working on. But the bottom line is, after doing a bunch of insane maneuvers, including this crazy tumbling backwards flipping thing, which is called a Lunkenvac, I don't know how to pronounce it. But anyways, I was not 100%. And but I said 90. It's classic.
Okay, that is crazy. I need a second to recover from that. Yeah. So our relative direction for a minute there was flat backwards, right? Yep. Wow. You want to see a torque roll? Yeah, okay. How you feeling? I'm feeling good. Out of 100%. I'll give myself a 90. 90%? Okay. Yeah. Why don't you fly us around a little bit?
So Jared knew at that moment to immediately give me control and let me settle down, and that's all it took. And I definitely know, thinking back on it, I was actually starting to head down that slippery slope, and it happens fast apparently. Once you start getting motion sick, you're done. And I've never experienced it before, but that was the beginning of it. But within 30 seconds of me flying around, I was totally fine and back to normal, and we did a whole bunch of awesome stuff, and I can't wait to share this one, so stay tuned. Now, as far as having an emergency with a passenger, the one piece of advice that I've got from several people has been, give them something to do that's completely innocuous to calm them down and get them out of your way. So a classic one is assign a passenger an important task of like, watch this instrument and tell me if it changes, and pick something that will not change, like a VOR that's not set or tuned or whatever. But the best way to look at it is to consider giving them information on a need-to-know basis. I once had an alternator failure over the city at night with passengers, and I just cut the flight short and didn't even tell them about it. I just got it back to the airport with a low volt warning and still had battery power. And regarding night flying, everybody wants to take pictures, but they just don't typically turn out. And especially with little point and shoot cameras or with phone cameras, the flash is going to go off, and it's brutal. Obviously that's going to destroy your night vision if a flash goes off inside the cockpit. So tell your passengers to disable the flash if you're going to let them shoot, but I would just suggest telling them to enjoy the view, and pictures are probably not going to work anyway, especially at night. And back to my flight with Chris. This was actually a cross country where I flew out to his home base, and then we did a local flight from there. And then I was dropping him back off and then heading home. And I was running a little bit late. I was supposed to be taking over for my wife for kid duty because she had some things she needed to do that afternoon, and I'd already run over almost an hour for this flight.
Thanks for letting me fly the bird. Oh, no problem. It's fun for me because I can spend more time just kind of relaxing. But you're going to hit straight out, I guess. Yeah, I got to get going just to give my wife a break. But I will shut down because that's my rule. Even if I'm just letting someone in and out, I do not leave it running. Good rule, Steve. I like that.
Shortly after getting my license, I had a really close call where a friend almost walked into the prop when I was juggling passengers, and I promised myself I would never do it again. It's a simple thing to avoid, and it happens more often than you'd think.
And thanks, right. Okay, you stay strapped in. Yeah, I'll stay strapped in. Right, I have all my toys, your water bottles on the back seat. Yep. Great day, man. Thank you. Great day. Thank you. No problem. Listen, next time we go flying in my airplane. All right, sounds good.
So there's always the temptation to break rules, but this is one that I've always stuck to, and today I got tested, and I was happy that I passed the test. So I wanted to share this one because this one's important.
Clear prop!
So if you notice Chris is digging through his pockets there, it's obvious that he's forgotten something, and luckily he has a handheld radio so he can give me a call and let me know.
I think my phone may be in your airplane. Oh boy, I'm going to have to break my rule here. Think it's in the pouch?
So I was so tempted not to shut down and just pop the door open and let Chris run over, but then I thought to myself, no, that's the whole point of rules. You just make them, you don't think about it, you just follow them.
I can't reach it if it's in the pouch. Do you want to see? Sorry, man. Yeah, that's all good. That really tested my rule, though, because like I was tempted not to shut down. Here it is, on the floor by the cable. There you go. Right. Okay. All right, let's try it again. Mixture. Is off. Clear prop!
It literally added 1 extra minute to my leisurely Sunday flight to go through the process of shutting down and restarting, so it really wouldn't have been worth it to break my rule, so I'm so glad I didn't. So I'm happy to report that Jen survived the flight, and she had a little private cheer moment to herself after we landed.
Alright, still alive back there?
So there you go, that's basically everything I know about passenger management in 15 minutes or less. I'd love it if the comment thread for this video became about people sharing their tips and tricks for passenger management. So for more information about flight shops, please check out my Patreon link and keep your flight shops sharp.
Oh, wow. I didn't barf. I was thinking about it most of the time. Well, that's bragging rights, because honestly, in the back of my mind, I was like, how am I going to make a video of me barfing and still be cool?